Hello there, it's Malachi. I'm back, and today I'm going to show you a few great jazz records I picked up while on vacation in Vancouver, British Columbia. So basically how this happened is that my family were there and we were just walking around, and we walked past this record store called Vinyl Records. That was literally the name of the store, Vinyl Records. So we stopped in, and of course, every record store I go to these days, I'm raiding the jazz section of the store, hoping to find something really good. And find something good I did. And the funny thing is that the owner of the store was just really watching me over closely as I was flipping through all these records. You know, he didn't want me to break anything, so he was super protective of everything. And obviously he didn't know who I am. And that's fine, I don't expect people to know who I am. Anyway, so he's watching over me, and he has this section, and it's the Blue Note section. It's more like the Blue Notes that nobody wants section, not originals or not anything good, that type of stuff. So I was flipping through that section, and he's like, "Oh, you're not gonna find any original Blue Notes or any rare jazz records in here. I would have those behind the counter." And behind the counter he had a stereo original of Lou Donaldson's Blues Walk and a copy of Horace Silver's Finger Poppin'. And those were very, very, very expensive behind the counter. But I did find some other really good stuff that was not behind the counter and did not cost nearly as much. So first we have Herbie Hancock's Maiden Voyage. This is a Liberty Van Gelder stereo pressing of it. I hope you can see it okay with the camera, because my camera does not really like this room and the lighting in here. It's always acting weird, so hopefully this turns out okay, and if it doesn't, it's not the end of the world. I mean, hey, at least I'm not that jazz record collector on YouTube who reads off of his notes all the time, okay? I'm not reading off of any notes, no teleprompter, okay? So, anyway, this is the Liberty Van Gelder stereo of Maiden Voyage. Of course, a brilliant album. You have Herbie Hancock, Freddie Hubbard, George Coleman, Ron Carter, and Anthony Williams. One of the greatest jazz records of all time. And if I pull it out, you'll see there's a Liberty label. I think you can see that okay. And you can also see that there's some pretty ugly scratches on there. But I played the record several times, and those scratches don't cause that much noise. And considering I got this for 34 Canadian dollars, for that price you can't really do anything better. I mean, Music Matters, it's currently out of stock. You're not going to get that for 35 Canadian dollars at all. And the Analog Productions 45, which was done by Steve Hoffman and Kevin Gray, I believe, at Acoustic, you're not going to find that for 35 Canadian dollars either. You'll find that for more like $200. And this sounds amazing. It's amazing record in all ways. The piano is very well recorded. I'm gonna take it out of the sleeve again. Piano is very well recorded. A lot of people say that Rudy Van Gelder was not good at recording piano, but he was. Look, the Hackensack recordings in his parents' living room, the piano is a little bit swampy on some of those. But at the Englewood Cliff studio, which is where everything after mid-1959 was recorded, it sounds perfectly fine. What are you all upset about? Nothing. You're upset about nothing. So, yeah, it's really well recorded. There's a decent amount of bass on this record. The trumpet and tenor sax come in very clear. The cymbals have a lot of air on top. And look, I'm sure a Music Matters pressing of this probably sounds a little bit better, or at least it sounds a little more faithful to the original tape. But you know what? This still sounds amazing. So I can't really complain for the price. And I also like to point out, you see a little bit of ring wear on the cover here. But there's also a split at the top. So what? It's literally 27 US dollars I got this for. 27 bucks. Not bad at all. Next, we have something extremely rare. This is an original Prestige mono pressing of Gil Evans in 10. So, Gil Evans, of course, the brilliant arranger who worked with Miles Davis and many other people, but most notably Miles Davis on records such as Sketches of Spain. He recorded a lot of records as a leader under his own name as well, and he would lead and arrange these really big ensembles, and the arrangements are fantastic. These are fantastically recorded albums, and this was his first album under his name, Gil Evans in 10. So it's Gil Evans on piano and doing all the arrangements, and an ensemble of 10 other musicians. And this was only ever originally released in mono. So the only stereo release that I think exists is the Analog Productions reissue cut by Kevin Gray. That's out of print and also a little bit expensive. But see, this is Deep Groove label, and it's got some scratches, but not that bad. It's got the Rudy Van Gelder stamp there, the RVG stamp, because he used two stamps. He used the RVG stamp, and if it was a stereo recording, it would be RVG stereo, and then later on he transitioned to the Van Gelder stamp that was a lot smaller. This record, of course, is musically great. The sound is decent. It's not the best sound. You know, the piano is a little swampy, as this is a Hackensack Van Gelder recording, but still not bad at all. Since this was 1957, this means that Rudy was running simultaneous mono and stereo tape machines. So this is going to be a different mix and a different recording. I mean, same sessions, recording the same thing, but still a different recording than the stereo version. And what's interesting is that, so the cover is a little bit ripped there, and I hope you can see this, but the previous owner had written in pencil the track times and recording dates of each of these songs, which I think is really cool. And on the sandpaper inner sleeve that it came with, he had written the catalog number and 4.5 stars. Now, after this record for Prestige, Gil Evans recorded 2 albums for Pacific Jazz, one of which was New Bottle Old Wine, recently reissued as part of the Blue Note Tone Poet series, supervised by Joe Harley, cut by Kevin Gray, all analog. I haven't heard that record or that reissue, but it should be fantastic. So Gil Evans did those 2 records for Pacific Jazz, and then he did some records for Impulse, like Out of the Cool, which is one of my personal favorites of all music, really. This is a beat-up $3 original copy that I got when Fremer was here. Blame Fremer for making me listen to this record. But you know what? It's perfectly fine because it's a great record. I forgot to mention. So, Gil Evans in 10. This one was reissued shortly after its original release, but under a different title. It was renamed Big Stuff, and the cover was changed to accommodate the name change. And then there were some drastic album artwork changes as well. And then now it's back to being Gil Evans in 10. But this is the very original pressing. I got this for the price of 50 Canadian dollars. That is less than 40 US dollars. And that is just insane that I got this for that price. And it's interesting, you know, Fremer brought this up when I was on the phone with him the other day. So, you know, it's like you go into a record store, you see these records, like these original jazz records, and your first thought is this a reissue or a repress or a later pressing? And then when you see that it's an original, you just get that adrenaline rush. I get all the time when I find these records. But yeah, considering I got that Gil Evans for such a cheap price for, what that record is, that was really amazing. Now, last one I got was Bud Powell, The Scene Changes. This is Volume 5 of Blue Note's The Amazing Bud Powell series. And I hope you can see it okay. Yeah, I think you can see it okay. So, it's got some tape that's tearing apart on the top and bottom, so obviously the jacket isn't in the greatest. It's got some writing on it. And so, it's a well-loved record. The record, however, this is an original Blue Note mono Van Gelder cut. You see some water damage on the label, but it's fine. Deep groove on side 1, not on side 2 for some reason. And there are some scratches on here and a decent amount of noise, but it's fine. It's a mono record. It's not that intrusive when it's in mono. And this album's a really fun album to listen to. Of course, you've got Bud Powell on piano, Paul Chambers on bass, and Art Taylor on drums. It's just a very fun record to listen to. But this was only ever originally released in mono. This is another one of those only originally released in mono. The stereo didn't come until a lot later. So, it's interesting because this is from 1959. This was recorded in 1959. So by then, Rudy Van Gelder had transitioned to an all-stereo setup, no mono. This might have been done at Englewood Cliffs. I don't know. I'll have to check. But it sounds more like an Englewood Cliffs recording because it's that well recorded. And the stereo is a very wide stereo with no center. It's Bud Powell on the left and Paul Chambers and Art Taylor on the right. And the center is empty except someone, I don't know who it is, someone is scatting along with the music throughout almost the whole entire record. So that's what you get in the center of the stereo edition. Now, since this is the mono, it's folded down, and it's extremely three-dimensional. It's basically, instruments are stacked in front of you, and even if they're all coming from the center, they sound great, and it sounds more natural than the stereo mix does. Music Matters did this in stereo, and I don't have their reissue yet, but I'm going to get their reissue and fold it down to mono, and we'll compare. And I'm sure their reissue is more faithful to the tape, but this is still fantastic if you can find it. And I got this for 40 Canadian dollars, aka 30 US dollars. This record, and I looked on Discogs, people are selling this in the same condition for crazy prices. Like, I'd say the record is like a light VG, and the sleeve is strong G+ to light VG. Still, it's perfectly fine. Good record. So, now I have 3 original Blue Notes. The other Blue Note that I have that I didn't get this time was Jimmy Smith Plays Fats Waller. These records made by organists that are more of an easy listen. These were pretty popular as far as Blue Note goes. And I found this in New York City for 20 bucks. And it's in nice condition. It's in mono. But the sound on here is that great. It sounds like it's very tinny. The cymbals just, it's not that good. But on the Bud Powell record, the cymbals sound fantastic. There's a lot of air on top. It's very open. You've got strong muscular bass. And it's interesting because Rudy Van Gelder, when he was cutting the records, when he was mastering them, and so most cutting engineers back in the day, they would just cut the bass entirely. So, on the Kitty phonographs, which are equivalent to today's Crosley Cruiser, in case you don't know what those old Kitty phonographs are. So most engineers would cut the bass so the cheap turntables could play them. Well, Rudy Van Gelder was very smart because he put a bump at like around 80 hertz, so you would get a sense of bass, but it wouldn't be actually really low bass. So that was something that he was known to do and that people have noticed over the years. Joe Harley mentioned it in the Vinyl Guide podcast that he was guesting on. So I recommend you listen to that because he talks about the Tone Poet series and some of Rudy Van Gelder's techniques, or what we know of Rudy Van Gelder's techniques, because he's very secretive about it. But yeah, this is a great album. Can't recommend it enough if you just want, a nice, easy, fun jazz record to listen to. And I got a really great deal on this. Like, this and Gil Evans and 10 might be two of the greatest jazz record steals, essentially, I've gotten. So, between those 3 records I got in Vancouver, it set me back about $106 US. $106 I was not expecting to spend, but $106 I was happy to spend because I saw those records. I was like, I cannot pass these up. I'd be an idiot, a complete idiot, if I just looked at those and just left them there, because, you don't see these records out in the wild. Very rare, it's very rare you see these records. So, yeah, I recommend these albums, of course, because they're really good. Obviously, because a lot of the Blue Note stuff is really good albums. So anyway, that's it for today. Hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you in the next one. Next video I'll post is probably going to be a stupid one, but you know what? Like and subscribe for more of this and more stupidity as well. Alright, I'll see you later.